Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way next, Off 90. We talk to college students in Red Wing who build guitars. We visit a glass artist in Mankato. We meet a painter in Rochester. And we do some model railroading. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this trip, Off 90. In the age of mass-produced everything, some items are still made by hand, out of wood. In Red Wing, students learn how to make and repair guitars and other string instruments. One important step is learning how to read the wood. Let's find out more.
So then I'm just going to take my chisel and just remove the end taper. My name is Tim Reedy. I am one of the instructors at the guitar program here at Minnesota State College Southeast in Red Wing, Minnesota. I'm part of the musical instrument repair and building division of this school. I work for the guitar part of this. We also have violin and band instrument repair. Most of the jobs out there are repair-oriented, so we're trying to orient our students to be skilled doing repair work. But part of that is to have an intimate understanding of the anatomy of a guitar. So that's why we have them build acoustic guitars and electric guitars.
We have students from sort of all walks of life, from 18 years of age to perhaps retired and just looking for a hobby. They don't always have a musical background or have woodworking experience.
So students come in, most of them have never touched, a chisel or a block plane or scrapers or table saws and sanders, and so we have the first 4 weeks getting everybody comfortable with all of these tools. And that's before we get into the repair work and the setup work. Today we're doing bridges and sound posts. We start with fitting a sound post inside the violin. That's where we're going to get the mirror in there. We're going to look for the end pin hole, get it in there just right, which is a really tricky job. Then we fit a bridge to it. We string it up and get the action, the string height's just right, and then we do it over and over again.
I'm Rachel. I'm in the second year guitar program at the Red Wing School. The first year program, it was a lot harder than the second year program has been because I was so new to everything, getting comfortable with all the sharp objects involved with it and, learning how to work with wood, how to read it. One of the surprising things was that it's such a physical job, and it really does take a toll on the muscles.
You're working with your hands. Oftentimes you're just sanding for hours and hours, which isn't very exciting. We're working with a chisel, forcing a chisel through a piece of wood.
So we try to take it sort of one step at a time to learn how to sharpen a knife or a chisel and being able to build their first instrument. And that, as a student, is the most rewarding thing.
So this is my first year guitar. In the first year you have the option to build an electric guitar, but you have to build an acoustic. I did both. So this is based off of a Martin OM 14 fret to the body, but the whole thing is rosewood. I tried to use as much rosewood as possible.
My name's William Schrader. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, so not too far from here. This is my first year acoustic build. So this is a OM body guitar. So it's a little bit smaller than a dreadnought, but not quite like a travel size guitar. I would love to build guitars full time for the rest of my life. That would be ideal. Breaking into the field is definitely a challenge. You know, there's a lot of great people out there that make a lot of great instruments.
There are more employment opportunities in repair work. That's our main focus. When people get out, that's where the jobs are. It's much more competitive in the guitar building world, but some people do go on to find a career in building guitars. That's what I did. So when I'm not teaching, I'm building guitars for customers, and here's a couple I built. This one's called the Labrada. It's an acoustic and electric guitar.
Well, this is an electric guitar that I designed sort of based on the classic 50s and 60s instruments that I really love.
And this one I've called the Black Pearl because it's got black mother of pearl on it. This one's got a lot of kind of modern features, the cutaway, the arm bevel on it.
I'm always inspired by vintage instruments and creating something that has the benefit of being made now, but has the look and feel of something that was made 40 or 50 years ago.
It's a multi-scale instrument. You can see that the frets are angled. It's got a longer scale length on this string than it does on this string.
Oh gosh, I've never played one of these. Pretty cool. Multi-scale? Yeah.
My interest in guitar started as a guitar player. Kind of fell in love with the acoustic guitar. That led me to come here and go through the program. That was in 2004. So when I got out of school, I started building instruments. I've built a little over 100 guitars myself.
Tim's an amazing guitar builder, and I hope to be able to be on that level one day, but I know I've got a lot of work ahead of me to get there.
When it's done well, it can be very rewarding. It can be very challenging, but with great challenge comes great rewards.
There's a lot of satisfaction in creating something tangible that somebody can put their hands on and they can play it and they can enjoy it. Because in this day and age of sort of planned obsolescence, the making of a musical instrument to me has a really important place.
At River Hills Mall in Mankato, you might notice a warm glow coming from inside one of the shops. It's where glass artist Larry Hodgson creates his designs. He loves fantasy imagery and he likes to make glass dragons. Let's take a look.
My name is Larry Hodgson, and we are at the River Hills Mall in Mankato, Minnesota, at Renaissance Glass. Renaissance Glass is a blown glass specialty gift shop. We specialize in all things shiny and Renaissance-themed statuary and gifts. Dragons, knights, fairies, unicorns, that type of thing. It seems that there's quite a niche, an interest in that type of product, and we've been doing Renaissance festivals with our blown glass for upwards of 30 years. And this is the perfect marriage in this one location and store. It's worked really well for us as far as a formula that people seem to enjoy the stuff we have on our shelves. I have a passion for it. It's a lot of fun. I stumbled into it years ago, always been interested in it since I was a child, watching blown glass being done, and just dumb luck. Later in life, I met a glass artist willing to teach. I've been doing it ever since and learning every time I sit at the workbench. It's such a fun medium. The process for creating something out of glass, in the medium we work with, it's actually called glass lampwork. It gets the name lampwork. In the old days, they used to use an oil lamp, and that was the heat source, and they'd use a bellows to blow air over that flame to make it hot enough to melt the glass. Today we use Pyrex for our glass. We use propane and oxygen, again, combined so that it's hot enough to melt the glass. We take rods of that Pyrex, we heat it up with the torch, and when it starts to melt, you can bend it and shape it and twist it into the figures that you're trying to create. Sometimes we'll work with colored glass. More often than not, though, we work with clear glass and then add colors, stains, or accents to it after the piece is finished. Pyrex is actually a brand name of glass that is borosilica. It's boron and silica, and it is unique in that it can take pretty extreme temperature changes for the most part without cracking or fracturing. That's why you can put a Pyrex baking dish in your oven and it doesn't crack in the same way as, if you were to take a drinking glass and put it in there wood. So there's a number of different formulas for glass for different applications, and Pyrex is by far the best for what we do. I've always had a fascination with fantasy imagery. Like any 13-year-old boy that never grew up, I liked dragons, and as a glass artist, and a dragon is, of all the things I make, and I make pretty much anything that someone would want, dragons are my favorite because there's no rules or restrictions. With a dragon being a totally fantasy-oriented creature, you can give it 3 heads if you want, you can give it wings, you can color it up any way you like. The phone could ring halfway through it and say, oh, well, this one only gets 1 head, and you'd get away with it and have fun with them. Whereas when you're trying to do a sculpture of an elephant, you can put it in different poses, but you got to have a trunk and big ears, or it's not an elephant. So it's nice to be able to do things that are fantasy oriented, and I've always been interested in that and sci-fi. And I do a number of things by commission if people want a special character from a video game or a ship from Star Wars. I'm quick to jump on a Star Wars project. Sci-fi is my first love, and I find things like that a lot more challenging, but at the same time, that's one of the reasons to want to do it, is that challenge. I can always make another hummingbird, but I would rather make an Ewok. As far as services I offer, I do repairs, I do custom orders. Because I am just sort of one guy, though, there's certain times of the year where custom orders just aren't practical. As we're involved in our Renaissance festivals through the summer, I get pretty tied up with having to do dragons and unicorns. As we get into the holiday season at Christmas, we get booked pretty early for custom orders, and I don't want anyone left without things being available or not having time to complete a custom project. So typically, right around the first week of December, we stop taking custom orders, just so that we can provide that piece for someone in a timely manner. We spread ourselves pretty thin in the summertime as we do the Renaissance Festival and keep our mall store open, but I've got a great group of people that help me out that make it possible, and the Renaissance Fair just sort of happens. It's nothing but fun. We don't, it's exhausting, but it's over before we know it, and we're back in the shop here in Mankato working again. So, but we do keep both venues going through the summer. Something about the blown glass. It's fascinating to watch, and I would encourage anyone who may have the opportunity to try it, or if you've been curious. If you're not curious, plenty of YouTube videos out there. See the how-tos. When I learned, people were very secretive about their tools, materials, techniques, and now there's such a wealth of information being shared online. People talk about blown glass as being a lost art, and in all actuality, there are more people blowing glass right now today than any time ever in history. It's a wonderful time to get involved with this. And it doesn't take a lot of money. You can get set up in your garage working safely for a few $100s. The rest is just practice, 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 and learn the rules so you know which ones to break. It's a fun art form. Definitely give it a try if you have the opportunity. I had a gentleman come into the Renaissance Festival one time who explained to me how he's in blowing glass now and living in the Twin Cities. And he was inspired years ago by a glass artist that used to come to their mall through the holidays, and he would watch him blow glass and ask him questions. And when I asked him, where were you from? And he says, Albert Lea. And it tickled me because I was the glass artist that he had talked to as a kid, who used to come in all the time with his mom. And that was 25 years ago. And it just, it filled my heart with joy to know that what I like to do and enjoy doing is inspiring a generation of people that maybe I'll never meet, but when you do meet them and they can give thanks, in a sense, it just, I don't know, it makes you feel good.
Brianna Stenzel believes there's an artist inside each of us. She dabbled in art as a child, and her family encouraged her creativity. Painting allows her feelings to show through.
We were all born creative, I believe. Pablo Picasso said that everyone is born an artist. Some of us nurture it and some of us don't. Hi, I'm Brianna Stenzel, and I am a local artist. My local business name is Cece's Collective. Cece is short for my middle name, Cecilia. I am definitely a multi-medium artist. I like to work with acrylic paint, I like to work with oil paint and watercolor paint, and I even dabble in resin. I was raised in a creative family, and I've been creative since I was 3 or 4, drawing even at restaurants, drawing on all the placemats. My grandma kind of nourished my love of painting by taking me to like a summer art camp for kiddos. We learned a lot at a very young age. What I like about painting is the freedom that I can express how I'm feeling. I do that based on the colors I use. I do that based on experiences I've lived and had to go through. It's been a sort of therapy for me. I was working on a painting of a bird flying in the sky. And at the same time, my grandma had passed away. So what started as a bright yellow painting quickly turned into a dark painting with blue and black and just accents of gold to encompass the grief I was feeling. I am heavily inspired by art and nature and music. I have a lot of birds in my paintings and a lot of plants. I see birds as this just pure freedom, being able to fly anywhere they want to. Also, like, they're musical in a way. They sing, and that's one of my favorite things about spring, is hearing them sing. And we've been hearing more and more of that lately, so that's been making me so happy. I also have some work where I've included music lyrics, because I grew up in a musical family. But definitely just a lot of funny, punny things in my greeting cards as well. It's something I'm known for locally. My favorite moment when painting is when I can lose myself. I struggle with a lot of daily pain. I have some chronic illnesses, and just being able to get lost in my art world and just zone out everything, every pain receptor, and just get lost in my painting is really wonderful. One of my favorite show and tell moments was when I was accepted into Semba Gallery, because it is judged. So either you're in or you're out, and that was really validating for me when I was voted in. I felt very seen, like I am an artist, I can do this.
The first model railway is said to have been built in 1859 for the young nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte. Train hobbyists chug along as childhood dreams turn into adult pastimes. We visit a model railroad show in Albert Lea.
We are putting on our 26th annual Model Railroad Show at the Northbridge Mall here in Albert Lea, Minnesota. There's a mixture of people here. Some people come, they just want to look at the trains running on the layouts. Others are here to buy things. Others are here to do a combination of both. And so it's kind of a social get-together, actually. We have about 35 vendors here. I'm estimating we'll see over the weekend 700-800 people, possibly 1,000 depending on.
I think that most of the people that are here at a train show, it really is the tie back to their childhood and how the railroad from back in the day was a significant part of everyday life and a significant part of, again, moving people or freight across the country. So these are a couple of examples of brochures that the railroads would have created back in the 30s or 40s.
There's so many things, it just depends on what your interest is, but the model railroad layouts, for example, the craftsmanship that's put into a lot of the scenes on these layouts, if you really take the time to look at a layout, you know, just the innovation to do all that, it's pretty neat to really, when you appreciate what they do.
My name is Clark Probst. I'm what they call a prototype modeler. It's basically taking a freight car, for example, and detailing it and lettering it like a photo of a real freight car. Or taking a section of a city with a railroad in it and actually trying to duplicate that in a small scale. It's probably the same story everybody has in my age group, is that you received the Lionel train set for Christmas when you were a little kid and you got to watch your dad play with it. And as you got older, HO come into being in the middle 50s, but Athens started putting out train sets. So every year for Christmas I'd get an HO train set, and then it just grew from there. And then probably in the late 90s, I got hooked on building things, basically freight cars.
Well, back in the mid-1950s, my parents introduced my brother and me to a whole bunch of hobbies, and model railroading stuck big time for me, to where it's my passion in life. It has such a variety of facets, between building benchwork to put a train layout on, up to building equipment, painting equipment, researching, doing scenery work, electricity. Just a whole bunch of different skills come into the hobby.
I think most model railroaders are never done. Most model layouts are never done, and most model railroaders are never finished accumulating their empire. So no, I continue to collect.
I just like building things, and I've got 2 lifetimes worth of kits yet to build, and I've picked up a few more here today just because I couldn't resist buying them, but I just like to keep busy building stuff.
If you go back 15 years, the airlines publish timetables. It literally is just showing
schedule of each train in each town.
Yep. And the interesting thing about the railroad ones is that unlike an airline that basically goes from hub to spoke, the railroad went to all these towns in between.
Most of my friends think I'm absolutely crazy. Unfortunately, I seem to have this reputation in the neighborhood that people will meet me, "Oh, you're the guy with train layout in the attic." It's like, yes, I am. Who are you? Normally when they hit the top of the stairs in the attic, their jaw drops to the floor because they're just shocked at what they see. They're expecting a little loop of track around the Christmas tree type of layout, and mine fills the entire attic with the mountains and the towns and the whole paraphernalia regarding the scenery aspect of things.
If you're starting out Don't be intimidated by the sticker prices. You come to shows like this one, and you can find good bargains. I just found 2 cars that are hard to find anymore. And you can get a really good selection of equipment here to find out if you really like it or not.
Back in about 1960, my parents gave me some tools to use for the hobby, and I thought, this is kind of a nothing gift. But 60 years later, I'm still using those same tools. It turned out to be a very valuable investment on their part.
I've got a lot of good friends here, and we go to a lot of shows. We do about 20 shows a year around the Midwest. So it's just a kind of it's like a groupie thing, sort of.
It's just been a lifelong hobby, and I'm so thankful I've had it. Going through the ups and downs of life, the hobby has been a constant to help me keep my spirits up.
We've reached the end of this episode. Thanks for riding along. See you next time, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.